Well, I want to thank you again for joining me for our small group lesson on the book of Proverbs. We're finishing up with Proverbs today. Next week we'll be in the Song of Solomon, but today we're going to finish up with Proverbs chapter 31. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever written someone a love note, a love letter? Maybe you were in elementary school and you wrote a little short one, do you like me? Check yes or no. Or maybe you were away at college, or maybe you were off deployed overseas or just a long way from family and friends, and you had to tell someone what they meant to you. Maybe you wrote them a love letter that way. I remember some years ago when I would visit home, I found these odd things around my parents' house. I would notice a post-it note here and a post-it note there, and there were notes from my dad to my mom or from my mom to my dad as he was leaving for work in the morning. He would leave a little note for her expressing his love for her that day. And today, that's what we're going to experience in Proverbs chapter 31. The author today begins the Proverbs with some wisdom from his mother. And then he progresses on into verse 10, where he begins to write this amazing love note. It's about a great woman, an amazing woman, and I really hope he's writing about his wife. We don't know if he is or not, but I hope it is, because it is a great love letter, a poem written to his wife. It's actually an acrostic poem where each verse begins with a subsequent letter of the Hebrew alphabet. We can't see that in our translation, but that's how it was written. And so today, let's begin with Proverbs chapter 31, verse 10. And I want you to note his adoration for this woman and her commitment to him. Proverbs 31, 10 through 12. Who can find a wife of noble character? She is far more precious than jewels. The heart of her husband trusts in her, and he will not lack anything good. She rewards him with good, not evil, all the days of her life. Now this may sound odd. It may sound like a slight toward women, like he's saying a good woman is just not out there. They're hard to find. Where are they? But I think if you think more about the analogy, he's talking about a precious jewel. What do we do for precious jewels? Well, we go and we search for them. We go and we hunt for them. We send men out west. Years ago, men went out west looking for gold and looking for precious things. And we search and we search and we look for just the right one. You know, if you're looking for an emerald to put in the queen's crown, you just don't walk outside and find the first green rock and go and stick it in the crown. No, you look for just the right emerald. And that's what he's talking about. You search for the right person to have in your life. And he says that when you find that person, you hang on to them. And so he's not giving a slight to women. He's just talking about how great his wife, or the woman in his life, is. And he says you are great. When a man says you are the greatest wife ever, he's not meaning that as a slight toward every other woman in the world. He's just wanting to express how great his wife is and how precious she is to him. Throughout today's lesson, we're going to do an activity. Some of you may find it weird, odd, it's a little different, but we're going to write a poem today. I know you're probably not poets. I'm not a poet, but I want you to think through some things. I think we can do that with our pencils and our pens today. And so, men, if you're watching this, I want to encourage you, pause for a second and just take a moment and write 2 lines about how precious your wife is to you. And I want you to just think through that. Think about a metaphor. He used a jewel here. What is something that's precious to you that you can compare your wife to? And then I want you to take a second and write 2 lines about what kind of good she brings into your life. The author says that this woman brings all kinds of good into his life. What kind of good does your wife bring into your life? Now, ladies, I want us to do something similar. I want you to take a moment. I want you to write a prayer to the Lord. I want you to write 2 sentences, 2 lines about asking the Lord to make you into someone precious, make you into someone who's more precious. Maybe he needs to work on you in some areas. Ask the Lord to work in your life. And I want you to ask the Lord in 2 more lines to make you into someone who brings good into someone's life and bring good into your husband's life. And just take a moment. We're going to do this throughout the study this morning. And by the time we get done, you're going to have a little poem that maybe you can share with someone, or you can pray to the Lord. Now we're going to read Proverbs chapter 31, verses 13 through 16 now. And I want you to listen to some of the things that this woman does. Proverbs 31, 13 through 16. She selects wool and flax and works with willing hands. She is like the merchant ships bringing her food from far away. She rises while it is still night and provides food for her household and portions for her female servants. She evaluates a field and buys it and plants a vineyard with her earnings. Well, first off, it says that she selects wool and flax and willingly works it with her hands. In other words, she's providing clothing for her family. Then it says she brings food from far away. She's a provider. She's taking care of her family. Then it says that she carefully overlooks some land and selects it and buys it and plants a vineyard there. She's planning for financial security for her family. She is a provider. I want you to take a moment. I want you to pause. I want you to think about or discuss with someone, how does this translate today? You might not be going out and selecting wool and working it into thread to make clothes for your family, but how does it translate? How do you provide for your family clothing and food and financial security and other things? Just take a moment and discuss that. Now, the division of labor in each family varies from family to family. It doesn't really matter, though, who cooks dinner and who takes out the trash. What works for your family works for your family. But what matters is how we do and what we do for our family. How we do it is so important. Go back to verse 13. It said that she willingly worked the wool and flax. She didn't begrudgingly support her family. She didn't begrudgingly care for her children and those who worked in her household. She did it willingly. Look in verse 15. It says that she gets up early to cook for her family. It says that she carefully looked over the land. She was very diligent in the way she provided for her family. I want us to take a moment and continue with our activity. Men, if you'll write a couple lines or think about a couple lines extolling your wife for all the care she provides for the family. And women, if you'll take a moment and ask the Lord in your poem/prayer to make you into the woman who diligently and willingly provides for her family. Or if you already do that well, ask the Lord to help you do it in new and different and better ways. Now let's read verses 23 through 27, and let's look at this lady's character. Verse 23 through 27. Her husband is known in the city gates, where he sits among the elders of the land. She makes and sells linen garments and delivers belts to the merchants. Strength and honor are her clothing, and she can laugh at the time to come. Her mouth speaks wisdom, and loving instruction is on her tongue. She watches over the activities of her household and is never idle. I see 5 character traits in this passage. First off, I see that she is influential. And this is a different time, a different place that the author is writing than we are currently in today. In that time and day, they would do business in the city gates. They would build walls around the city, and there'd be a gate in the wall, and the men would sit in that little area, and they would do business. They do financial dealings. They would even do court and things kind of like that. They would settle legal disputes maybe. And this man, this husband, is able to sit there and be influential because people respect his wife and her good character. And that's an interesting dynamic, but that's what he says he is able to do because of her. But also, she's not just influential, she's trustworthy. She takes her wares to the market, and the merchants from all over buy what she has to sell, and they then resell it. So they trust her, and they trust her work. Then it also says that she is settled. She's not worried about tomorrow. She's not fretting over things that she can't do anything about. She does her work. She takes care of her family, takes care of her business, and that's all she needs to worry about. She doesn't have to worry about tomorrow and what's coming in the future. Then we see that she is helpful. She offers her insight and her wisdom in a loving way to those around her and those over whom she has influence. And lastly, we see that she is industrious. She doesn't just sit around and do nothing all day. She gets up, she takes care of her family, her household, her business, and then she moves on. She doesn't just sit around and daydream and do nothing, lay around the couch and watch Netflix all day. She gets up and she is busy and does what needs to be done. We saw earlier what this lady does. Now we see how she goes about doing it. Her actions match her character. She does the things to take care of her family because she is a woman of character, and we see that together. You know, sometimes our character and our actions don't match. The way we act doesn't match up with our character, and it's kind of funny, but you think about it, sometimes we'll do what needs to be done to take care of our family, to take care of our business, but we really don't want to do it, or we're doing it out of a bad motive and out of a bad spirit. This lady's character matches her actions. Sometimes those just don't add up. Think about the boy who cried wolf. He did the right thing. He saw a wolf and he cried. He yelled out, "There's a wolf." But nobody believed him because they knew his previous character choices, crying wolf when there was none, caused them to not believe him when he did what was right. His right action in the end didn't line up with the character that everybody knew he had. And so sometimes in society that happens. What happens? I want you to stop and discuss what happens and what's it like when someone's character doesn't match up with their actions. Maybe they're acting right, doing the right things, take care of things, but the way they do it and the way they think about it and the way they feel about it really isn't the right motive and the right way of thinking. So discuss that. Now let's continue with our poem and our prayer. Men, I want to encourage you to write 2 lines that extol your wife's character, that talk about how great she is and what kind of woman she is. Not just what she does like we did earlier, but the kind of woman she is. And ladies, I want you to take a moment and write 2 lines on your prayer poem to the Lord, asking Him to build that kind of character into you. Maybe go back to that passage and look at those 5 character traits and ask the Lord to build that into you. So I'm going to give you a second to work on that. All right, let's finish up by looking at Proverbs chapter 31, verses 28 through 31. Her children rise up and call her blessed. Her husband also praises her. Many women have done noble deeds, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord will be praised. Give her the reward of her labor, and let her works praise her at the city gates. You know, the honor for the noble woman, it's going to begin at home. It begins with her children. Now, you think sometimes teenagers and young kids don't really show the honor and respect that they should sometimes to their parents. But think about that college student who goes off to college for the first time. Maybe a month later they come home, or maybe it takes a year, but they come home and they really appreciate their mother. Maybe it's that young couple that's just gotten married and they've moved off on their own and they're experiencing life together, and they begin to really understand what their parents really did for them. Or maybe it's the young mom who maybe really didn't get it, but once she has that first child, and she calls her mama and she learns what it means to be a noble woman. And so honor begins at home. The honor also takes place not just with children, but with husbands. I love this. The writer of our proverb, he even gives the men a script. He's like, "Men, I know you may feel this way, but here's how you say it. Here's how you express this to your wife." And it goes something like this: "Honey, you're great." It's a paraphrase, but something like that. And so honor begins at home. And actually, men, that should be a clue to us. We don't just think it. We don't just know it. We need to say it sometimes. But then honor is not just in the house. It's not just private. The honor for the noble woman is going to be a public thing. He says the woman who fears the Lord is going to be honored publicly. Think all the way back to Proverbs chapter 1. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of what? Wisdom and knowledge and the way to act and the right path to walk down. So he's reminding us that a woman, like we've described in Proverbs chapter 1, is a woman who's going to fear the Lord, a woman who does fear the Lord. And he says that woman, though, she'll be honored publicly, not just privately. The people in the city gates will honor her for what she's done. Now, I'm not sure, ladies, moms, if you're ever going to get a parade, I don't know. Maybe they will one day. But you will be honored publicly. Those people around you are going to see the kind of woman you are. They're going to see the kind of family you produce. Now, I want to give you a little thought here, though, before we go on. Your children, you can pour them, you can love them, you can be the greatest mom in the world. You cannot control the way they act as adults. That's up to their relationship with the Lord. So, moms, I want to challenge you on that. Don't get down on yourself sometimes when your kids and your grandkids don't always turn out and make the best decisions. But I want to challenge you to just pour into them what you can. And when you can't do for them anymore, pray for them. But let's finish up, though. We're still got our activity. We're working on our poem. Man, I hope you're working on this. Ladies, I hope you are too. We got a couple more lines to write for our poem. I want to encourage you to take a second. And men, I want you to write 2 lines honoring your wife, praising her just for who she is. And it can't be honey, you're great. All right, men, I want you to really think about this. Think of 2 lines that talk about how great your wife is. Now, ladies, in your poem prayer to the Lord, I want you to write 2 lines asking the Lord to make you into a woman who fears Him. Maybe you already follow the Lord deeply, and maybe you're already walking on the right path. Ask Him to help you more, because we can always walk better, right? And so, ladies, I want to encourage you to take a moment and write 2 lines there for your in your prayer to the Lord. The Lord. Well, I hope you've enjoyed our study of the book of Proverbs. We've walked through it. We've skipped a little bit. We've got to the end here. And I want to remind you that the Proverbs are a way to find daily wisdom. If you're wondering, man, I just don't know where to start reading the Bible. Well, Proverbs is a good place. You can start there. It's 31 verses, 31 chapters. You can start in day 1 of the month, and you can read a little bit each month, and just daily wisdom for you to learn how to walk with the Lord and walk in His will. So challenge you to do that this week.